the News Channel 5 network, this is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine. Glad you're with us tonight. It is Wednesday, April 29th, and we are happy to be here on OpenLine. Glad you are with us. If you are a parent with school-age children, you probably have a new appreciation for teachers. Of course, schools are closed across the entire state for the rest of the school year. Tonight, we'll be talking with leaders from Metro Schools. Very happy to have with us Dr. Adrienne Battle, who is, of course, the director of Metro Schools. And we'll also have Dr. David Williams. He's the Chief Academics Officer for Metro Schools. A lot of questions. We encourage parents to call in with those questions. But first, I welcome both via Zoom. Thank you both for being here, Dr. Battle, Dr. Williams. Thank you. We will start. I want to get the questioning started with just where things are going. I saw an interview this morning from the governor of California talking about a contingency plan to possibly start schools earlier in the summer. He was concerned about the fact that there has been a long period of time where kids are out of school. I guess, what is there any plan like that to start school earlier? Is there a plan, contingency plans about the fall, if if social distancing is still required? What are some of the contingency plans you're discussing right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we can certainly respond to that with the fact that we're currently planning for many scenarios. First, we're planning for the now. Just this week on Monday, we launched our Remote Learning Plan 2.0 to ensure that we'll be given a strong structure and have a strong structure in place for our MPS students to continue learning at home, because as you've mentioned, our school buildings, our school facilities will remain closed throughout the remainder of the school year. We are also knee-deep in planning around what our summer programming options might look like for our students, regardless if we're able to do them face-to-face or virtually, as well as what next school year may look like. So we're busy, hard at work, building out structures and instructional plans that really will help us pivot regardless of the outcome, whether we're in our facilities or if our students will continue to work virtually. And I think as school leaders and as school teams, it's important for us to be thinking about various scenarios. Of course, we welcome the day where when we can welcome our students back into our school buildings and to see their smiling faces. But it is also imperative for us that in this virtual setting that we keep our students engaged, motivated, and really learning as they're building their skill set from year to year. And so various plans are in place, various scenarios we're planning around, with the priority being that we keep our students safe, we keep them healthy, and that they are really thriving when it comes to their ability to engage in instruction and academics.
Is there a scenario where, I guess, students, there would be, say you have a middle school, you would have certain grades come to school on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, other grades come to school on Tuesday, Thursday. Is that kind of thing, when you talk about contingencies, are those the kinds of things you're actually discussing right now?
I think it's fair to say that all of the above should be a part of the planning right now and is a part of the planning for us as a school district. We're thinking about what it looks like in a 5-day week. We're looking at it if we have to create flexible schedules for our students, as you have mentioned. We're looking at it through the virtual frame as well. If we're all virtual, if for some reason the phase-in approach keeps our students and our faculties at home teaching and learning. And so we're thinking about all of those various scenarios, not able just quite yet to determine what that might look like. There are so many unknowns for us right now. Of course, here in Nashville, we are following closely and in collaboration with the mayor's office regarding our phase-in approach. We know that there is some flexibility for the K-12 setting to open up our doors back in phase 3. And so we're going to closely monitor what that might look like and closely working with health officials to determine what our options will be going into the fall semester.
And how do you think it is going with the 2.0 learning? So right now, I guess describe what that is, why it took so long to get going, and exactly what it is.
Absolutely. So I will tell you, as many of you know, and as you know, Nashville faced the tornado devastation the first week of March, and it was important for us during that time to make sure all of our humanitarian efforts, making sure that the basic needs of our families and our students were being met. We returned back to school for a few days, and then we were out for the COVID-19 situation, pandemic, not knowing that we would not return for the remainder of the school year. And so, with that, we again needed to make sure that the basic needs of our students and families were being met. We wanted to make sure that we could distribute meals and basic supplies to all of our families. We wanted to make sure that we were truly serving in that space. We immediately moved into the supporting phase of distributing and sharing out online resources for our families and our students to remain engaged. Of course, giving as many supports to our families as possible, understanding that it was a new setting and structure for them as well. Just this week, we did launch our Remote Learning 2.0 plan, and it is a facilitated virtual asynchronous engagement for our students currently in grades 5 through 11. They are engaging in content, instructional activities online through our Schoology platform based upon their grade level standards. And it was important for us that while we're not taking attendance or grading assignments, we're asking everyone to take on more accountability over the next few weeks to make sure that our students continue to grow and learn. We want to make sure that we're filling the gaps for our students and that where there's opportunities that we're accelerating their learning. And so for all of our students in 5 through 11, just this week, they did begin working on a remote learning platform, which is Schoology, to stay connected to their teachers, to their classmates, but also to engage in enriching content as we close out the school year.
And to do that, one of the things obviously that's needed is a computer. Many people have a computer, many people do not. How do you feel about, do enough kids have computers? Do you feel like every kid in the fifth through, in the grades that you mentioned, do all of the children have a computer that need a computer?
Yes, what we knew from the very beginning when we first began to face this pandemic was that we did have a digital divide. We knew that many of our families did not have a device or enough devices in the home in order for us to immediately switch to our online platform. And so that was of concern to us. It's been a concern even before the pandemic, understanding that we did have a digital divide. And so we began to really assess where the needs were within our school families, whether they had devices and if they had access to internet and or Wi-Fi. We have loaned out more than 3,000 laptops to date. We'll be sending out about 4,000 more soon. And as of yesterday, we've received about 2,000 more requests. And so while currently our plan is not to execute necessarily on a one-to-one device distribution, we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our families. And so our commitment is to make sure that if we have students and families in need, that we can get devices in their hands so that they can continue to engage and connect. And in the meantime, we will continue to distribute printed packets to all of our students and all of our grade bands to make sure everyone has access to the grade level standards and activities to keep them growing.
Do you think then, well, yeah, and okay, well, go ahead, Dr. Williams.
No, thank you. I was just going to add to some of what Dr. Battle said, and just some of the numbers are pretty large, but we are averaging distributing about 700 laptops every day during the week. Our help desk is receiving anywhere from 800 to 1,000 calls every day to reserve a laptop, and as Dr. Battle said, we have several thousand that are queued up, ready to deploy. But back to so those numbers are large, but we're aware that there is a digital divide, as Dr. Battle said, and a lot of what is required is for our IT staff to actually go into schools physically and retrieve a lot of those laptops, take them back to a central location, make sure that they're clean and configured and ready to go for students to pass out. And of course, when we do that, when students make reservations, it helps our IT team configure the laptop specifically for that student. So that way, handing the student the laptop can be expedited to maintain our social distancing guidelines. But back to your question earlier about how we're preparing for the summer and potentially the fall, is we had nearly 5,000 teachers attend one of our 6 Schoology sessions. And Schoology, as Dr. Battle said, is our learning management system. So we think that even though we're continuing this remote learning 2.0 that we started a few days ago for the rest of the school year, we think that will benefit us well if we have to face this pandemic crisis in the fall. But at the same time, even if we're back in school in a more traditional sense, this gives teachers the opportunity to learn the platform, to incorporate it in a blended learning approach going forward anyway. So those are just a few other things that I would just like to add.
Oh, great. How many students right now do you feel like don't have a computer, but they need a computer? I mean, if you could magically just have these computers materialize and get into students' hands, how many in Metro have asked for a computer, need a computer, but at this moment you feel like they don't have a computer?
The most recent number, Ben, I can tell you that I called and got an updated number about 40 minutes ago, was we have about 6,000 that have been reserved so far to date that have not received them. So that would be the number that have called into our help desk to make a reservation, or we have an online form that they can complete to make a reservation. And that number is pretty close to 6,000. That again, we have to have the capacity to have enough devices and again, configure them to students and then be ready to deploy at sites around the city that are geographically dispersed so that students feel like they have a location in close proximity that they can access the devices. So there probably is more than that. We get, again, 800 to 1,000 calls a day, asking for laptops. So, but we think that sort of the flatten the curve, but that's probably the peak. And I think that as we get these requests filled, we'll start to see less and less as those are deployed.
And I'll ask Dr. Battle and you this, Dr. Williams. Would you consider this a dry run, essentially, in case we have to have social distancing again in the winter or the fall? I mean, is this essentially a dry run to make that possible? And Dr. Williams, you take it first, and then Dr. Battle.
Yeah, no, I'll just say we knew that we had to do more for our families than we were doing and provide our educators with a little bit more structured framework to approach what remote learning could look like. And we knew that was important for our teachers, for our school leaders, as well as our families and our students to have a little bit more formalized structure so they knew what to expect and they knew what even some flexible minimal expectations would be to engage in remote learning. And we knew that we needed to do that. That was a need that we had. We knew we had to step up and meet, and that was to get us through the rest of the school year. But we also knew long-term thinking, whatever the future held, as Dr. Battle said, we don't know what the situation will be, but we knew that this investment now would pay dividends in the future should we be in the same situation. But also, even if we're able to return to school, our teachers are better equipped to deliver instruction remotely and engage students in a blended learning situation with Schoology.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that. From the very beginning, what I've shared with our team as we've been planning and executing is that there's not a true playbook for individual schools or school districts in dealing with such extended school closures. And so with that, we have created plans to ensure not only for the now that our students can continue to grow and learn, but we're also thinking about the future. Our goal is in the future to be fully prepared for any short-term or long-term school closures. And so through this remote learning plan, through the professional learning that Dr. Williams mentioned, all of those avenues and strategies will set us up for success in the future. We now know that the majority of our staff have engaged and are engaging in our online platform, really connecting with students. We're receiving positive feedback about students' ease in the program and their ability to connect with their teachers, their classmates, and the content. And so these are learnings that we will take forward in the mindset of continuous improvement. It was important for us to get going now. And although the school year is coming to a close, I feel really good and really inspired by what we're seeing through our Schoology platform, engaging our kids and keeping them learning and keeping our teachers really refined and sharpening their skills around what blending learning can look like for MNPS as we move forward.
So a typical school day obviously is, 8 hours, 9 hours long. What are you telling parents who are now overseeing their kids learn or grandparents or whomever may be the guardian in the home, how long should students be working on the work that is being sent home and they're doing it on computer? Is it 8 hours? Is it less than that? What are you advising parents and students on this? And I'll say, Dr. Williams, you answer that if you don't mind. Zoom may have frozen up. We may just have, we may not have an answer to that question. Are they there, Taylor? Do we have them there? All right, we're going to hold on 1 second. All right. So there's so many questions. I'm going to encourage you to call in now. I've asked a few questions, kind of set the table, but I encourage you to call in. There's the number right there at the bottom of the screen, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. This is Zoom. Every once in a while it freezes up, even when you have Dr. Battle on. So give us a call with your questions, and we'll take them. I'm also interested, and I didn't even get to yet, budget questions. So we'll ask some of those, but we'll start taking your questions next. We'll take a break, and there is the number, 615-737-PLUS. Take a break. Be back right after this.